Okay, going live. Going live. I've enabled the chat. So chat away out there in TV land. All right, hey, this is Mark. I'm coming to you from Baker's Green Acres here in Marion, Michigan. Today is Tuesday, November 8th, Election Day. I voted today, amongst other things. So, yeah, we finished up Homestead Hog Harvest for the year Sunday afternoon. We had a class of 10. Um, it was one of the better classes that we've had. I mean, every year we do this, we get just a different attitude of people that are coming in to get this instruction. And for new people coming in, Homestead Hog Harvest is an anyone can farm experience function. And we allow people to come to the farm and we slaughter two pigs. So normally it's 12 people, and we slaughter two pigs. So it winds up being four halves. And then on Saturday, we're breaking down those halves and getting some of that meat ground and some of the skin processed and fat processed. And instruction all the way along. It's really a pretty in-depth process. And by Sunday afternoon, we are done with our grinding and seasoning. Our hams are on salt. Our legs of prosciutto are on salt, if that's what we're going to be doing. And so this year, the class was really good. I mean, it just really clicked right along. I have learned over the years how to manage a class. You don't want people standing there just watching. You want them to get involved. And so occasionally in the past, I would say I would hand somebody a knife and I'd say, here you go. You want us to do this? Or here you go with a scraper, get going on this. And not so much this time. People were leaning forward. And again, we had a fair percentage of the class. Let's see. I'm going to say 50% of the class. Let's see. Let's see. Oh, I'd say we were up higher than that. I'd have to think about it a little bit and replay some of the conversations I had with folks. But these people are going to be butchering their own animals this coming weekend. So when you have people that are taking a class because they're going to do the same thing the next weekend, they're leaning forward, they're attentive, and so we had a lot of fun. It was just a really great class, and um, Joe did a little filming and he did a little interviewing, and I thought it was kind of interesting when he interviewed me. He said, "What do you like most about doing these classes?" And it's kind of funny when you first start on the very first day. There's a couple of places where I get a little bit of pucker factor, meaning I'm kind of, let me just get past this and let me get past this. The first day, usually where it can go wrong and horribly wrong is when we go out there to get the pig. One of the first things that we do is we have to shoot it, and I do that. Generally, they're used to me coming out, so they think that they're going to just get fed. And I just have to wait until their heads dip down to a certain angle, and then I can get a good shot. And this time, both pigs, I got really good shots on. And so it went pretty well. So you get past the first day, and then the second day, sometimes I am a little concerned that somebody's going to hurt themselves we're using really sharp knives, and a lot of people haven't done any of this stuff. But by the time you get sort of to the end, you kind of know, okay, we're going to make it through this. And then like Saturday night, Sunday morning sets in. I usually get up pretty early on Sunday morning and get done what I need to get done to prepare for the class. Then I start thinking, boy, I'm going to miss these guys. I'm really going to miss these people, because you form pretty fast relationships, and people are very interested in the farm and interested in what we're doing and how we're doing it and things like that. And so when you're in an environment like that, you really don't want it to end and just go back to normal. Uh, so that's what you go through. But I think what I enjoy the most is when the class is over and I can sit down for a minute and think of the faces that I was with the whole weekend. They're people, individual people, and they made a concerted uh, effort to do something, to learn something. And when we turn them loose, or when they head home, they are unrestricted. They're turned loose, and I think that's really a good thing. It's a it's sort of like if you were uh, dead set on seeing apple trees all across the countryside, and you just went out on the weekends and you had a pocket full of apple seeds and you were just planting them everywhere, right? At the end of and then by the time you get around to that section of the county where you live 5 years from now, and you see apple trees popping up everywhere, you get a good feeling about that. So I got a good feeling, uh, as opposed to uh, having people come to the class just for the experience. And oh no, I probably will never do this, but it's just fun. I'd like to experience it. That's good. That's good. And you've given them a good experience. But when you've got people who are going to go home and put the pedal to the metal, and hopefully they teach 10 people, and so on and so on and so on, uh, we we could find ourselves back into a situation that's a lot better than where we are right now. Because where we are right now, around here, in the butcher shops that are around here, one of the guys in the class was telling me he called around, and actually it was Isaiah. He said he called around, and I said, "Well, exactly who'd you call?" And he said, "I called everyone." And he said the earliest we could get in was 3 months. So can you imagine if you have pigs that are ready to be processed? They're up to weight, and then you have to keep them hanging around for another 3 months, and you need the meat for your home. And then when you finally get to your date, I'm hearing that people's dates are or appointments are just being canceled. We can't do it. We're overbooked. I'm hearing that. And this has been going on for, oh boy, it's been going on a while. It's been going on a while. Years, a couple years now, since the Wu flu came in. All right, so very, very good class. I feel really good about it. Nothing happened. Things can happen. Saturday night. Okay, here's something that we encountered. Okay, so our little butcher shop, when we built it, it's made for 2 or 3 people to be working in, and you're just handling the process. You're just processing animals through. It's not meant for 14 people to be in there. So when we're doing the classes, a lot of times it's tight, and it can get really tight. Especially when we have 4 halves of hogs and people are trying to get things done. There wasn't enough counter space. We may do, and I never really heard a complaint, but I just looked at that and said, we could do better than this. If we're going to continue to do this, which it looks like we are, we need a better situation. So our maintenance shop is 40 by 18. The only problem is it had no windows on the south side. It was just this clear plastic stuff that we put up, Delta rib, that fits in with the sheet metal that was on the side. And it let a lot of light in, but you couldn't really see through it. And it, wind came through it. It was a temporary fix that we did years ago, and it worked fine. We were able to take down that material and save that material, so it's still here. But what we did was we had some sliding glass windows that I scrounged whew, 15 years ago, more than that, 16, 17 years ago, um, out of an apartment building down here that there was a friend of mine that turned me on to these windows, and I got them, and I got way more than I need, and I've never even used one all this time. And so we used four of them. We framed it in, and this was just shortly before the harvest class, and we were kind of scrambling to get it done, and we did get it done. And we thought, well, if we had inclement weather, we could move in here. Well, wouldn't you know? Friday night, when we just about getting done, it starts raining. It starts raining pretty good too. So we moved into the shop, had picnic tables in there, and it lit. I ran a torpedo heater in there, took the edge off, and we sat down and had a nice dinner of organ meats. It was really nice. So then everybody was kind of tired. Everybody went home. Show up here on Saturday morning. It had rained during the night, pretty good. We had a little bit of clear weather Saturday, a little bit, not clear skies, but just not raining. And then it started to rain, and it rained, I think, right through until evening, till the sun went down. Um, it's raining hard, blowing like you wouldn't believe, and so hard that my ClearSpan building, it blew the material to smithereens off of it. It just destroyed it, and knocked a limb off the tree out in the front yard, and it came right down on the electrical service coming from the pole, pulled it right to the ground, pulled the meter to the ground, did not break the meter, and the lights didn't go out. So we sat in the house and were very happy to still have electricity and listen to the wind just howl, just howl. Tons of rain came down. And we got up Sunday morning, and it was very wet, um, had rain during the night, but it was calm. And let's see. Uh, it did get kind of nice around 11, got up to 50 degrees, and we had sporadic sun coming through the clouds. And that's when we did our a farm tour, which I feel is very important, because I would like people to see how, pigs and butchering fits in with the entire homestead. It's a facet of the entire homestead. And once you know, I did not plan this. This is Jill's doing. Tonight, our topic is hog butchering. Now, this is a subject that we did, but evidently that video was taken down because I must have said something that YouTube didn't like, and I got a strike over it. So we figured we'll just reaccomplish it. I don't remember what I said in that video, but I can always talk about hog butchering and what it means to me, and why I think it is so important to the homesteader. And this is why we've dedicated so much time to getting people up to speed on this and sending them out the door. So our show tonight is going to be sponsored by CSA Turkeys from Baker's Green Acres and Tribe Plus, the Anyone Can Farm Experience hog harvesting video course, which is up, by the way, on Tribe Plus. If you don't know what Tribe Plus is the Anyone Can Farm Experience Tribe, but this is Tribe Plus. And if you are a Tribe Plus member, it's a paid subscription, and it enables you to get into all the good stuff. And so the video course is there, and it's offered to you at a much better rate. And a lot of the classes that are in there that we do charge for are just there for your enjoyment. You can just access them. And we're making new content all the time. Joe's busy all the time putting up new content. And so you have access to that. So I really need a solid here from y'all. I mean, we don't have the super chat thing anymore because we don't have enough people. And that's something you got to have. I don't know how many people before they'll allow you to do super chat. I don't know. It seems like we have the same amount of people every single night, and I think it's a little on the counter's a little on the low side. That's just my feeling. But if you could do me a solid here, and please go to the anyone can farm experience.com and sign up for Tribe Plus. It's 49 cents a day, less than a cup of coffee, and it will go a long way to helping this operation continue. Okay? We, I gotta pay. I gotta pay people, right? I gotta pay Joe, I gotta pay the kids. People gotta get paid. Plus, we're bringing on an administrative assistant. He's got to be paid. So I need your help with that. And also, if you could spread the word, like, share, and subscribe. And if you could possibly, spread this out, you know, uh, tag your friends and all that stuff if you think they're into homesteading and small farming and just plain living. I would appreciate that. All right. So, hog butchering. I think to talk about hog butchering, we should first talk about hogs. Why hogs? Hogs sounds like I don't hardly ever call them my hogs. I usually call them pigs. Hogs just sounds kind of sloppy. As you know, we raise Mangalitsa and Mangalitsa crosses, and they are much different than the white pigs. They're not a sloppy animal. Um, they're forage eaters. They're red meated pigs. They're not the pink pigs. They have a much different look about them in the face than just pink pigs do. Pink pigs look, I don't know, kind of buggish to me. But these are pretty nice animals. They do well on pasture. They will eat just about anything and turn it into good quality fat and lean. Um, they're very durable. They're quite furry, so they do well in all weather. Really, in hot weather, they do well, like down in Texas and in Florida. We have people in both places that are raising these types of pigs, and they're thriving. You got to give them a little place to get out of the sun, and they certainly have to have some place that they can get a little bit of mud on them. So they need a wallow. But in the north, we have severe winters, and we do not bring them into the barn. Not that it's any better in the barn than it is outside. They have huts outside so they can be on, some sort of bedding, or even just the bare ground is better than, wet ground. But it's surprising with these pigs. I have gone out there in the morning and I would swear that the pigs are gone because I see no pigs out there. And then you get a little closer and you see a head pop up out of the snow. And it's like, you got breakfast? You got donuts? So they don't require a whole lot of amenities. They really don't. I mean, the animals that I have on this farm that require the most babying would probably be the milk cows, probably. So, but not the pigs, that's for sure. So, pigs on a homestead. A lot of you have heard this, and it's going to be repetitive, but I'm going to say it anyway because we have new people coming in all the time, and just you can't leave stuff out. And especially important stuff. So pigs are great at reducing. They are reducers. All right. So um, the way we raise them, we don't raise them in barns. They're out on dirt. I'd like to tell you pasture, but then people get confused and they'll put them out on their cow pasture and then say, "Hey, how come these things are digging?" Pigs are diggers and they live to dig. They like to dig. And you have to get your head around the behavior of the animal because that's what they're going to do. And then you say, well, if this pig is going to dig all the time, how could I make that work in my favor? Me as the, uh, the CEO of Baker's Green Acres. By the way, I don't know if you can see that. Oh, this is our new logo, and it's not new. I mean, many of you have seen that, but I just got these shirts back from the place that does that today, and this is actually embroidered on here. It's they did a really nice job. Place right here in Vogel Center called B&D do a real nice job. And Jill got me these shirts. These are Dickies shirts. I really like them. And it's a gray. I like gray. I like battleship gray. For some reason, it's just a color that I like. I like green too, but green's kind of tough. The dark green, because you can't wear it in the summertime in the sun. It's way too hot. And even this might be, but she did get another type, and it's a different type of shirt. I think it's key, and it's a lighter material. So she said that will be better in the summertime. But all of my old green Baker's Green Acres shirts, they're going to be up for sale on eBay. They're antiques, right? So you may want to check into those. Either that or they'll be going in the rag bag. They're old. They are really old. And they do not have my name on them. You see that? I used to have a friend that would say, you never want to work someplace where you're wearing a shirt that has your first name on it. And he's a lot older than me, and I have always remembered that. But I kind of like it because it's a throwback for me to one of the first jobs that I had. I worked at an Amoco station for a guy by the name of Paul Gaudette in Shrewsbury, Mass. He hired me, and put me to work, and I did a lot of dumb things working for him. I broke a lot of equipment and did a lot of dumb stuff, but he was a good guy in my life, taught me how to do a lot of things. But I had shirts with my name on them, and I thought that was pretty cool at 17. I thought that was just really cool, and didn't wear shirts with my name on them for a long time, except my last name was on there, and then U.S. Air Force on the other side of the other pocket. But now I like having my name on there because it brings me back to when I enjoyed my work. When I was newly working in a gas station and doing brake jobs and changing tires and pumping gas and oil changes and stuff, I was really proud to be able to do that as a 17-year-old kid. I'd be, yeah, I got to go to work, Mom. I thought that was pretty cool. And people would stop in and I'd have my shirt on with my name on it and stuff. And I was just proud of that. So that's why I did this. I know it's sort of retro, but I'm quite proud of this farm, and I'm quite proud of the organization that we've built. And you have a weekend like this weekend, and I just can't get enough. It was just a really good weekend. And we were talking about we were doing hog processing or pig butchering. And so that's what we're talking about tonight. Now, why are pigs important to the homestead? Okay, so I can approach this from about 5 different directions, but let's just say that we're prep steading. Like we've got a homestead going and we're learning how to grow food, we're learning how to process food, we're learning how to store food, we're learning how to barter, um, all those things. And we're doing that because we've had enough of the institutions that during the last thing that happened, they let us down. They let us down. We got to see that they're not really there to serve us. They're there to serve their master, and their master is not us as the consumer, right? I mean, people did not want to have to put a face diaper on to go into a store, but the store said we're doing it anyway because the governor said we have to. The stores, a lot of them, because the governor said so, wouldn't sell paint because the governor said so, because of the Wu flu. Uh, Same stores wouldn't sell garden supplies because the governor said so. So now when I go in that store, I know that they're not there to serve me. They just want my money. But they got stuff I need. So, okay, I'll do business, but I'm not forgetting what you guys did. I'm not forgetting that. How you wanted us to all walk in one direction, spaced out at 6 feet. I won't be forgetting that anytime soon. No, no, no. No need to forgive, but I'm certainly not going to forget. All right. So, a lot of people have found themselves in that position and they've said, I'm not going to rely on them as much as I did. They're not going to be my sole provider of sustenance for me and my family. They've let me down. You know, they did it once, they'll do it again. Um, just a sec, I got a barking dog situation here. All right. It's kind of hard to run the farm without the dogs, but sometimes I would like to do away with them, honestly. Honestly. I mean, you can't, you like to sit down and get a moment of peace, and the coyotes are singing out there, and the dogs just, bark. And sometimes it gets a little tough when I'm trying to do something like this, but I'll control myself. All right. So let's say you're running a prep stead, and I was surprised that this weekend that was on people's minds. They were concerned about the food supply, and they were concerned that if they didn't get their hands on it, then they couldn't really rely on the people that we have grown to rely on for so long. We've spent so much of our money with these stores, and then they have the nerve to treat us that way. Um, okay, we'll see. We'll see how that turns out. But a lot of people are deciding that they're going to prep stead in order to have a rich supply of calories at their disposal when they need it. Right. So, yeah, you can grow a garden. That's a good thing to do. That's a great thing to do. Um, but is that complete? Is that all you need? Now, myself, I couldn't really live on vegetables. I don't actually do very well on vegetables. I'm a meat eater. I have to have beef. I found that out. You guys know I went carnivore for all that time, and it really redirected my life. And then I kind of, well, the garden's in, so I think I can eat fresh vegetables and I'll be fine. Well, that's where it started. But then I wound up, ooh, cookies, ooh, Oreos, and then it was like anything goes. Anything goes. And for those months when I was eating nothing but beef, I would no to cherry pie, no to apple pie, no to ice cream. And you're feeling really good and things are changing, and you don't wake up with a hangover in the morning. You don't wake up stiff. Ringing in my ears is going away. Any of the joint pains that I had's gone away. You just feel different. You feel a lot sharper. You're on. Doing a class this weekend, I was just there all the time. At least I felt like I was. Maybe that's part of it. Is you get delusional. Anyway, I got to have beef, and can I rely on the store for beef? Well, no. And even when you could, it was still very conditional because they suck, right? They won't put on there where it came from. Like, oh, well, I don't have the right to know where that beef comes from. Oh, okay. I guess I don't. So you can tell that they're not serving us because we would like to know where that beef comes from. But if you guys don't want to play good, you don't want to play fair, we don't need you. We'll just raise our own. So then what happened was, all right, so we saw that, and people want to get control of their meat supply. So where's a good place to start? A lot of people will start with chickens. I think that's a good thing. Um, but is that enough? Is that enough for you? Or would you like to go a little further? I personally, I think I would. I like pork. It is not. It doesn't do the same for me as beef does, but I can eat pork. I can process it, and I do okay with it, right? But I can't eat it every day. I do the best on beef, and it should be our beef because our beef is all grass fed, so it doesn't have there's nothing unnatural in it. It's all good stuff, and it's compatible with my body, and I don't retain a whole lot of. I don't have the inflammation problems when I eat beef. And inflammation, I mean like sore joints and headaches, and I used to after lunch I'd get sore teeth, like my gums were sore. That's gone, but it was like a phantom pain. It wasn't like right here it's sore. It was just like this wave of pain that would go through. That's gone. And I've heard that people have that when you're eating a lot of carbohydrates. All right, so on the farm, you are gonna let's say you're gonna do a big garden, and you're gonna supply yourself with all the squashes and pumpkins and corn and green beans and potatoes, all that stuff that you're gonna need. Well, what are you gonna do with the potatoes that uh, are rotten? Okay, you got a bunch of rotten potatoes or a bunch of cut potatoes, and you're not ready to start eating potatoes. So what are you going to do with those? Um, put them out for the trash man? Well, that's kind of wasteful, you know. Um, but if you have a few pigs, that can go to the pigs. They will reduce it down. They will turn it into fat and lean pork, and now you have no waste. You have absolutely no waste. What do you do if you butcher your chickens and you have heads and feet and guts, some of the guts that you really don't want? You're not into you should be with the feet, but I see why people don't do the heads. The necks, I mean, we should all be eating necks. There's a lot of meat there, and that skin is really good. But like we have a chicken processing business, and so we're doing other people's chickens. Like we did 150 of them today, by the way. And so, what do you do with all that? Well, I have pigs, so 1 or 2 days a week, they're getting a chicken dinner. They're getting a BCD, big chicken dinner. right? And they love it. They absolutely love it. So it gives me it gives me options of pigs will take things that could be a liability to you and they'll turn them into an asset. All right, so you mow your lawn, let's say, and you get all these clippings and you have to rake them up. You let it get too long, and then you mow it, and then you have to rake up all these clippings. You have a wheelbarrow full of those things. Well, what am I going to do with these? You can put them in the compost pile. That, yeah, for sure. Or you could give them to your pigs. They'll eat it. They'll chow it right down. Let's say you have rhubarb in the yard. Everybody knows you can't eat rhubarb leaves. Pigs can. Um, and the list goes on and on. That tree limb that fell down, it was from a hemlock. Maybe I shouldn't feed that to the pigs. Or maybe I should feed it to a small pen of pigs and see, because I think hemlock is dangerous. I'll make some tea out of it and see what happens. Now, um, if I cut down, let's say a maple tree in the summertime and it's full of leaves, I'll take those limbs off, throw it in with the pigs, and they'll just go through and snip all those leaves off and chow them down. Um, with with pigs, especially if you get into the heritage breeds, I wouldn't even fool around with white pigs. There's no way I would fool around with white pigs, because then you're dealing with a pig. Yeah, it'll grow fast, but it'll only grow fast on high speed feed, and high speed feed means that you're going to be feeding hog chow. Hog chow stinks. Those pigs will stink, and then you're likely, if you feed hog chow, you're likely to bring in uh, diseases, diseases into your pigs, because hog chow has a portion of it is called crude protein, and they get that from the the massive slaughterhouses. Everything that they can't put in a spam can from that pig, um, they dry it and pulverize it, and that's what goes in hog chow. Believe it or not. So you're getting generation upon generation upon generation, you know, times 100, times 1,000, or times 1,000,000 of medication and suppressed diseases, that have been suppressed with medication and antibiotic. So that's just not a good idea. That's not an option for me. I don't want to do that. The few times that has been allowed onto the farm, we've had problems, right? And there's been a couple of different scenarios. One was somebody brought some pigs back to the farm and just chucked them in with my pigs. And I told this guy, do not feed hog chow. I had come home. Believe it or not, I could smell like that. It's like dog manure smell of hog chow, and didn't think anything of it. And then we had a disease go through the herd, and I actually had to take action, and I lost about 6 pigs. It was a bad deal. And then I found out what had happened, right? And it was from hog chow. So don't ever feed hog chow. I say it all the time, but then I'll hear people talking. Yeah, they do. Okay, have at it if you want. Because, I say this, I say this, and I speak from experience. If you come here, you will see healthy animals, well fed animals, and I don't use hog chow. But then people who go to a feed mill will listen to a $10 an hour employee who knows everything there is to know about feeding animals, although he doesn't live on a farm. Yeah. It happens all the time. And I don't even get upset. See, I'm not getting upset. Son of a. Anyway, so you're going to want to have hogs on the homestead. They are the great reducers. They can eat things that you can't, and then you can eat them. Right? You're driving down the road and there is a dead deer on the side of the road. I know it sounds bad, but if you pick that deer up and bring it home and throw it in with your pigs, they will have a field day with it, right? Sounds bad. Yeah, it does. But the difference between them eating it and us eating it, we cook it. And yesterday, the steak I had wasn't cooked all that much. So, you know, um, and one of the parts of homesteading that I think is essential is being a scrounger, right? Because we don't always have everything at our disposal. We can't just go running our credit cards up. That's not right. You don't want to do that because then when you need something, you don't have any money left. Um, and in this country, there is just a lot of resources that are just laying around that people, just see it as not very important or not beneficial. I was talking with a guy today. He's just starting up a homestead, got himself 40 acres, and he's downstate from me. He is in the restaurant business. And so he was kind of asking me what I recommended. And I probably should have said, how many pounds of scrap are you going to be able to bring home, on a weekly basis? And you probably want to meet that with the number of animals that you're going to raise. Because face it, the scrap material that comes out of a restaurant, a lot of times you could feed a lot of people with that. It's not that bad. I mean, you'll have lettuce with a brown spot on it, or the ends of lettuce where they cut it off. The ends of tomatoes, and on it goes. But the ends of bread and bread that's stale, and there's a lot of food that can go out the back door of a restaurant that is just going to go in the dumpster, which is a huge waste. Like Laura Green up on Beaver Island, she fed those pigs that we processed a couple of years ago up there, and they were monsters, and she fed them for very little. I mean, they specialized in scrounging apples and all the stuff from the restaurant. She got a lot of stuff, and they're probably still eating on that pig, those two pigs that we killed up there. So scrounging is going to want to be a big part of your homestead life. But what do you do with that scrounge? Give it to the chickens. They're reducers too. They're great reducers, but they're small. And yeah, they give you chicken meat, and you can get eggs from them too, so it's good. But it's not much, and I don't think you want to be having 1,000 chickens on your farm so you get, 100 dozen eggs a day. Like, somebody's got to do something with those. You better hope that they're getting sold. I don't. Yeah, I don't see them. I see chickens sometimes when you have large numbers of chickens, almost like milk cows. Like, somebody's got to get in there and get those eggs every day. Somebody's got to do it, and then they have to go in cartons. They have to be washed. They have to be prepared for sale. So that has to happen every day. Can you get enough for a dozen eggs to make it worthwhile? I don't know. I don't know. Donnie Mono, many food banks will give you all the product that is at the sell by date. They can't give it to people to eat, and they often don't have the resources to dispose of it. Right on. Right on. Coastal, hey, where you been, Coastal? Processed a 16-month old gilt 2 weeks ago, about 300 pounds live weight. All right. 303 British to the forehead, got back up, had to use another round. Very upsetting. Don't want them to know what happened. A 303 British is, for those of you that don't know, is similar to a 30-06 round. It's a hunting, well, actually, it's a war round, but it's about that long. About that long. The 30 caliber is very high energy, like boom, and boot you too when you shoot it. I have a 303, by the way, Coastal. And most of the ammo that you're going to find for that, unless you're buying custom ammo, the bullet is going to be ball ammo, military ball. I wonder if that's what it was. Tell me if it was. Oh, soft nose hunting round. Well, still, doesn't matter. Um, the velocity on that at 5 or 6 feet is way too high. And that bullet is going to just go clean through that animal. And, you don't get the energy deposited into the animal. It's being deposited into the ground. It's just cutting a clean hole and going into the ground. I think now you're going to tell me that, oh no, we found the bullet in the head. And there's no way that would hang up in the head. There's no way, right? So I'm at 15 for 16 right now. 15 for 16. So the last 16 pigs that I've shot with a 22 mag, 30 grain VMAX. 30 grain VMAX. Don't use anything else. And they drop like a rock. I mean, timber, and they just lay there and they quiver. They just nice and quiet. Boom. Soft nose hunting round. Oh, that's right. In Canada, that's a pretty common round with the indigenous folks, I guess. Donnie's saying knock the hog down this weekend with 22 long rifle, no problem. I was surprised. Yeah, for the longest time, that's all we ever used. I have a 22 long rifle Remington Slide Master. I used to anyway. I gave it to my son Joe. And that was the gun that we used because it's got a tubular magazine and you put like, I think 10 rounds in it or maybe 15. And so if something doesn't happen, you got the next shot is just right there. Bang, bang, right there. But the gun that I'm using right now is a Ruger American rifle, chambered in 22 Magnum. And I'm staying with it. I used to use the 30 carbine, but we would find the bullets in all over the place. Like, and I pretty routinely had to shoot them more than once. And I don't like that. The male pig, was that male from your farm or the other farm? Oh. Oh, that's a question to Coastal. Okay. I missed a lot of the correspondence on here. I'm sorry. Keith Sutton's with us. Nance is here from Shaw Lake Homestead. Sean Wise is with us. Off Grid with Dave and Sonia is with us. Right on. Johnny Spears. Captain Spears is with us. Hello. We will be butchering this weekend. It was a great class. I learned a lot. Yeah, we had fun. Ben Carlson. All right, Donnie. That was it. Butchered a hog for the first time with a buddy this Sunday. Learned a lot. Yep. Your body, your choice. I think you're trying to be a wise guy there. All right. All right. So if you are raising pigs on your farm, which I think I've made a few arguments why you would want to, right? Let me throw in one more reason why you'd want to. If you set your garden up right and it is fenced so that when you've taken out of your garden everything that you want to take out of it, you can actually put pigs in there and they will dig all of that up. They will eat everything out of there that can be eaten. You miss a potato or You have a vine there or something like that, they will go through and they'll eat that. And they'll get all that turned over. They'll lay down a lot of nice manure for you. You could leave them in there uh, maybe over winter and then get them out in the in the spring, get it rototilled and let it sit. I know some people don't like rototilling, but I do. Um, that could be a really good thing. They'll work for you in that case. All right. And let's see what comes in the summertime that's scroungeable, or in the springtime that's scroungeable. Um, I can't think of anything right now, but there's a lot of scroungeable material out there. We know that. We know that. Um, all right. So you've got these pigs, and I have all different sizes in my pen. You may have seen a video that I made. I put it on my Mark Baker Facebook page, and I made it, I think, yesterday, and I showed this field that's 100 by 100, and I planted it in August with daikon radishes. They're about this long, they're like this big around, and they have this beautiful plume. And I put them in there on Sunday of the class because I wanted the students to be able to see that, because I think it's quite profound. It's 100 by 100 square foot. The square footage in there is 10,000 square feet, and we're pulling up between 5 and 10 pounds, sometimes way more per square foot. That's a lot of forage, right, for the pigs. And the exciting thing about that is I pay very little for that forage, very, very little. There are things like daikon radishes, like purple top turnips, like field peas, like rye, um, that grows really well in really weird times. I have rye that's was I didn't actually seed it. I had rye straw that I rototilled into where the chickens used to be, so that was really thick in there. So I wanted to rototill um, some rye straw into it, and so I did that, and then I scraped it all out. I put it on the compost pile, and it sprouted. At this time of the year, it sprouted. Unbelievable. But there's a lot of heat coming from inside the compost pile, so that's probably why. Um, Maybe I should plant it. Maybe that would be a good idea, and just have a nice, like a chia pet out there covered with rye. Um, let's say you grow field peas. They're really cheap. They grow like hotcakes. And let's say you grow 10,000 square feet of them, and you say, okay, they're ready. Let's get out there and harvest them. You'll get about 10 feet in harvesting, and then you'll be hauling a bushel basket out. Like you'd have to harvest them by hand. Other than that, you have to have a combine come in, and they're not going to do 10,000 square feet. They're just not going to do it because it's not enough. It's a very expensive piece of equipment. So it doesn't make sense to grow 10,000 square feet of turnips because you really can't harvest them. I mean, I guess you could if you had. You'd have to be doing that and about nothing else. But if you grow them and then turn your pigs in on them, they will do the harvest for you. They'll harvest it, eat it, and convert it into pork and fat. And the fat on the pigs, um, why you need to know how to butcher those pigs is because you need to know how to handle that fat. You need to know what to do with it. You need to know how to render it down, or how to make it into lardo, or something that you need to do with it. You can render it down, and then you can melt it and put it on popcorn. Actually, it's really good. It's I don't know. It's hard to say it's better than butter, but it's good. It's really good. many things you can do with that. And it's not the kind of fat that you would get if you were just feeding those pigs corn and soy, hog chow. That fat tastes kind of, to me, tastes kind of like Mountain Dewish. Has that, it's just a certain smell kind of that comes from it that I do not like. If I go into a processing plant where they're doing a lot of corn fed pigs, I can smell it. And I just don't. And then when I eat it, I can taste it, and I just don't like that. Our pigs, the fat on it will be a lot clearer, and it kind of glistens down the back of your throat, and doesn't have um, that porky flavor to me. It's much more like a grass fed beef tallow would treat me. You Let's see. Why else do you want to butcher on the farm? When you take your animal in to the butchers, for me, it's an hour and 15 minutes away. If I'm going to use Triple R, which I got nothing against them, but they're full up right now. I couldn't get in there if I wanted to. Um, they they require that those pigs are there early in the morning, right? So that means I got to get up real early and go. And by the time I get home, it's after lunch. After I all the way there, first I got to load the pigs in a trailer. That can be a rodeo. You have to have a trailer, right? Um, and then you have to get up there, unload them, do the paperwork, and get home. By the time I get home, it's after lunch, and all I did was drive, And then in about a week, I get a call. Hey, the first half of your order's ready. Yeah, all the fresh meat. Yeah, like the pork chops and all that stuff. That's all ready. You can come get it. So you drive up there, you get it, come home, put it in freezers, disperse it where it's got to go. Then you got to go back in 2 weeks to get all the hams and the bacons and all anything that you had, put in tubes or anything like that. And honestly, I'm not sure that stuff doesn't get mixed up, because I know it does. And I'm not throwing stones. It's really hard to keep that stuff straight. But we've brought bacon home, and it's like, hey, this isn't our bacon. So somebody got our bacon, and we got somebody else's. And we didn't even want to eat the bacon that we got from somebody else's pigs. It just had no flavor compared to ours. So the reason why I'm saying you should butcher at home, it might seem like a great big hairy deal to you if you had just come to one of our hog harvests, and it's like, wow, all day Friday we were shooting and scalding and scraping pigs, and then all day Saturday we're breaking them down, and then all day Sunday we're grinding and stuffing sausages and all that. But that's not really how it works. If I need a pig for my freezer, it's like I get done with lunch, with breakfast, get my 22, jump on the tractor, go out there, bang, come back. We've got the water ready, scald, scrape, eviscerate. That's going to take me an hour, really, if that much. I mean, I'm going to have more time into getting the fire built under the water than I will actually doing that thing. And when I'm done, that pig is laying on the table in the shop in halves. We just leave it lay there so it can cool overnight. And the next morning, I'm coming out, and literally in 20 minutes, I've got that pig cut up into primal cuts, and like the bacon's separated off, and starting to work on the chops. And I will be done cutting that pig in an hour. So I've got 2 hours into it. If I use the USDA shop, when I go to pick those up, I don't just pick them up. I got to write them a piece of paper, and it's not pretty. It is not pretty. Let me tell you, it's not pretty. You bring a 300-pound hog, and I don't know what they're getting these days, honestly. I think when we stopped, it was 70 cents a pound. 70. So you bring the hog in, they weigh it, a hanging weight, and they're charging you 70 cents per the hanging weight. Hanging weight is no head, hide, hooves, guts. And that's another reason why you want to do your own. We don't really want the the hair, but we do want the hide. We want that on our bacons to cure them. We want it on the ham. So if we want to make prosciuttos, there has to be that hide on there, like this. If we're going to make a prosciutto like this one, you might think that this is done for. It really isn't. It's just to show you that it can hang here for a long time, and then if I was to shave into that, I could pull really nice meat out of that. That's outstanding meat, actually. Um, and they don't do that. They don't scald and scrape. I don't know any place around here in Michigan that will actually do that. I don't know any. They're just not into that anymore. It's too much effort. They have these pneumatic skinners that they use that do a nice job, but you can't hang a ham that's got a layer of fat on the outside. It's just not going to work. So um, that's another reason why you want to do it yourself. Plus, you don't get the organ meats back from a USDA shop because they consider those to be like hazardous wastes. Like if you say, "Oh, I want the heart back and I want the liver and I want that," oh no, can't have that. I want the head. Nope, you can't have the head. Can't have the head. Well, why? Well, because we didn't clean the ears, and you can't clean the ears, so you can't have it back. Honestly, they won't let you have it. Sometimes they'll say, "Well, if we have to shoot the pig, then the bullet that we used, it's lead. And don't you know, if you swallow that bullet, you could have some digestive problems." So they won't let you have it. They have all kinds of, you're dealing with USDA. They're the ones, if you're going to certify organic on your farm, they say, we've got to inspect the bottoms of your fence posts to make sure there's no creosote on there. I mean, just typical stupid bureaucrat, low life government, people. So, and that's what you're dealing with when you don't do it yourself, when you take it to a USDA shop. Now, I've had to go to the USDA shop, and I really like those guys. They've done right by me. But what I'm saying is, if I can do this process myself, it just eliminates a lot of the hassle. I mean, it's such a hassle for me to have to load pigs in a trailer, hook it up to the truck, hook up the lights, which is always a crap game. Um, and then you're traveling the roads. So you may have, some highway patrolman that says, I wonder what he's got in that trailer. I think I'll pull him over and have a look. And while I'm at it, I'll look at his insurance and everything else. So you have to deal with that risk, and DOT officers and all that stuff. I don't have to deal with any of that because I am butchering. Then I can keep the lungs, I can keep the heart, I can keep the liver, I can keep the pancreas, I can keep the stomach if I want to do things with it. I can get pretty darn creative with that animal if I do it myself. I save a lot of money. I don't know. Let's see. Let's say that maybe somebody has sent a pig in here recently and knows what they paid and could tell us on here what they paid per pound hanging weight. But let's just say it was 70 cents a pound times, let's say a 265 pound animal. $185. $185. So you're adding that onto the feed bill. But if you do it right, because you're scrounging, you don't have a feed bill. And then you do the butcher, and you just made $185. You just made that. You can credit yourself with that. I don't know how that would work, but you didn't spend it. I'll just put it that way. Is that right? 0.70 times 265. $185. 185.50. We didn't have the resource to scald and scrape the hog, had to skin it. I'd like to hear your take on the best bang for the buck scalding setup. Yeah. I planted one of the paddocks with multicolor Indian corn. You mean Native American corn, don't you? Grew very well. Pigs mowed it down in short order. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's the way to go. They call that hogging it down. They hogged it down. Yeah, Native American. Don't forget that. 185 plus kill fee plus smoking plus curing fee. Yeah, it gets ugly. I mean, and I don't mean to put the processors out of business, but see, here we have this problem. Okay, around here, I can't help but throw stones at these guys again. But around here, these shops are regulated by the USDA, right? So they have a man that is there, or a woman with a hat on that says USDA and a clipboard, and they're geeks and they are parasites, and they will be like, yup, we know everything there is to know about butchering hogs, but I never did it myself. But I work for the USDA now. I'm not trying to put anybody down that lives down south. It's just you sound dumber when you use a southern accent for some reason. I don't know. Maybe from New England, that's how we do it. Down in Texas, they probably say, yeah, yeah. So you park the car and you go in there, and they think that sounds dumb. I think it sounds sophisticated, right? So anyway, um, yeah, okay. Here we have the commander in chief saying food shortage. We're gonna have a food shortage. Y'all gonna have to get used to being hungry. And then we have this massive backup of processing. You'd think that the USDA would say, you know what? We should allocate some more money for some independent butchers to come and build some shops. We should make some dollars available to them to do that. Why? Because we don't want America to go hungry. Do you hear anything like that? Do you hear anything from the Michigan Department of Agriculture saying, hey, boys, let's get a plan together? No, you don't hear anything like that. Nothing. It's like they're crickets. They're silent. Okay. We knew you didn't work for us anyway. I mean, guys like me, I knew you didn't. I knew you weren't there for us. You're not there for us. You're there for your masters, right? And your masters don't really like independent butcher shops. So you're not going around pushing independent butcher shops. You're not. We are, though. We are. And I think we just planted about 5 of them, at least 5. Let's see. Okay, there was those guys. That was a grandfather and son. There was the guys from New Hampshire, them New Englanders. They were going to butcher soon. I don't think it was this weekend, but it was soon. There was Captain Spears. He's butchering this weekend. So there's 3. Let's see. Who else did we have? People from Maryland. I don't think they're going to butcher. I don't think they were going to. That was a husband and wife. Well, there's 3 out of the class. Let's see. Who else? Come on, Johnny. I'm drawing a blank right now, but there's 3 out of 10 that I'm quite sure are going to be their own butchers. They're going to be their own butchers. So that's really good. Oh, then Lauren, she's adamant about doing her own. So there's 4. Oh, and then Mike was in the class. So there's 5. So we did plant 5. Yeah, that's a good solid 5, I believe. Oh, and then Luke, 6. Yeah. Okay. So that's kind of better than I thought. That's over 50%. All right. So that's the reasons why you should do it. All right. Now, let's just talk about some of the reasons people are going to say, well, I would, but I can't stand that, like I would, but I would, but. All right. So what you should be saying is some of the rough spots I'm going to have to overcome are because you can't overcome everything. We started the class and I said, you guys, this butcher shop wasn't here when we moved here. The reason the butcher shop was built here is because there was a partial foundation already here. The building was long gone. And there was a tree here that we were actually hanging animals that we were butchering out of to butcher them. We had nothing. There was nothing there. The foundation was partially there, but mostly gone. And it had been a chicken house, actually. So that's why we built the shop there. And, but we had nothing. We had just our knives and my saw. Um, that was it. That's where it all began. And I butchered quite a few animals out there before we built the shop. And when we did build the shop, all we really did was put up a roof over it. We thought that would be enough. But then deer started rolling in, and we were butchering deer. And so we needed walls because it was windy. And, it went from there. Um, and now we've done an addition on it, and it's about as big as we need it now for our needs. But I think we're going to actually move the shop and use that building for something else. That's what I'm thinking. Because I'm wanting to meet the need that's coming at me. Okay. And I'll explain that in in a minute. But other reasons why butcher, you should learn to butcher hogs is because there are people that can teach you, and you're looking at one of them. We've got a very successful operation with that, and we'd love to teach you. I'm going to be teaching 12 people this week, 12 or 14 this weekend down at the DeCleric Homestead. We're getting down there on Friday, and we're going to be there for the weekend. So it's going to be really fun. I'm looking forward to it. It's just a fun thing to do. I mean, but here's the need that I'm talking about that you're going to want to meet. Uh, at this point, we haven't seen any moves by the USDA or any of the state Department of Agriculture's to encourage people to learn how to process animals. We are a meat eating culture. They should be. If that's really what they were, like in the book 1984, the Ministry of Love was actually where they took you to torture you, right? So the Department of Agriculture is not really the Department of Agriculture. It's the Department of Anti-Agriculture because we homesteaders, small farmers, this is agriculture. The factory farming thing that's going on, I don't know what that is, but it's failing, and it has been since it started. So how in the heck can that be called agriculture? I don't know. I don't think it can. But that's who the Department of Agriculture is there for. They are there to direct energy and resources and people into that and just foment that lunacy that's going on. It's crazy what people are doing, what they're doing. Um, so if we see that they are not encouraging people to get into homesteading, farming, butchering, they're not. Then they're probably not going to. It's not like they're going to all of a sudden say, "Hey, wonder why we didn't do this." It's very intentional what they are not doing, right? So what's the next logical step that they will take? They will shut down more plants. They will shut down more. There's one in my neighborhood here. It's over in Tustin, which is about an hour and something away. It's shutting down. It's a custom exempt plant, and it is shutting down. They are closing the doors. I wonder why that is. Wonder why that is. I'm not saying that the USDA has something to do with it, but something's fishy over there. So if this is how it's going to go, if you position yourself with a processing facet of your operation, even if it's a really small one, just think how much extra money you could make doing this. You know, you could do really well, and that buys fence, that buys additional land to go on your property. It buys, fencers. It buys tools. It buys vehicles. It buys, mortgage payments. It buys all kinds of things, braces for the kids and eyeglasses for the old people. It really helps. And um, I, yeah, I see what you're saying there, Nancy. She's saying big changes coming in 2023. I wish you would give me some line items there. I'd like to know where you're coming from on that, because I agree. But I was trying to explain this to my youngest son the other day, and I said, "You know what a hedge is?" And he's like, "No, not really." I said, "Like a hedge is like my parents used to have one around their house. It was these bushes that grew, and it provided a barrier from their house to the next house. And it was growing, and every year, twice a summer, we had to trim the hedge. Hated trimming the hedge, but we had to trim the hedge." And I said it just gave a barrier between the people next door and my parents' house. Um, hmm, okay, talk about that in a minute. Um, Canada, I cannot believe. Um, and I said to him, the reason why we don't get too upset about the things that they're saying in the media and all the latest stuff, we kind of poke fun at it, and because we have people in our family that are all bent about the things that are happening. I tell them, because in the homesteading business, we've created a hedge between us and them, and it allows us to just work on our stuff and build our personal, you would call it wealth. And I don't want you to think like, well, we've got a big safe here with $20 bills in it. That's not the kind of wealth I'm talking about. That's not the wealth I'm talking about. The wealth I am talking about is a freezer full of food, um, that will sustain us, a a pantry with a lot of canned goods on the shelf that we've put up. Um, that is wealth right there. A set of tools that I can fix my equipment with. A set of tools that I can take a pig from running around on the field to pork chops in a day. I can do it in a day. So all those pigs that are out there on the field right now, that's an accumulation of calories that is just waiting until I need them. Right. But I don't necessarily have that if I can't butcher them. There's other steps involved. Let's say all of a sudden, I need to feed a bunch of people. Let's say that there's a really bad storm and the people on this road can't get out, and we have to feed a bunch of people. Do I want to dip into our stores? I suppose I could, but then if I need to replenish them, well, I just knock down a few pigs, get them butchered up, and then I'm right back where I was. I got plenty of food. Okay, so with and I know we're starting to see this. Okay, Nancy's saying big changes coming in 2023, and then Coastal and Nancy live in the same neck of the woods. And they're Canadian, and you got to watch what goes on in Canada because they can do stuff to the Canadian people a lot easier than they can to us, or at least they say it. And Canadians are very compliant people, right? Where Americans, especially now, we're getting a lot of exercises to our middle finger when it comes to them telling us stuff because we're just blowing them off. But if you live in town or in an apartment or something, and there's animal restrictions or there's food supply restrictions, there's not much you can do about it anyway because you're removed from it one more time. But in our case, we have animals on the farm. Yeah, and that is the big difference between you guys and us. Coastal just said it. They have no constitutional rights. Like, and that is the major thing. I had a real in-depth conversation with a guy this weekend. He's asking me, how do I get around having some sort of weenie from a township or health department or state or whatever dig into my operation and give me a hard time? I said, well, there's a couple ways that you can deal with that. And I told him what he needs to do, but then he's like, yeah, but I don't want the hassle. Well, it's like saying I want beans to grow in the garden, but I don't want to have to plant them, and I don't want to have to weed. I don't want the hassle of that. You know, your freedom, your constitutional rights, you're going to have to exercise those things, and you better learn how to do that. Is what I'm saying. I had a guy send me a message, and I'm going to bring you guys up to speed on this. If Could you do that now, Nance? Could you move to the United States? I wonder. Maybe you could just, yeah, vindicti, non-compliant Canadian here. No, that's not our government's job is to tell us what to do. I mean, you have this parasite class of person that, of course, they've gone to university, right? And, so they think that they're smarter than the rest of us. And then they get in these jobs where they're just bean counters or whatever, like health department. And yet they feel as it's their duty to tell us what to do, like they're our moms and dads, and townships. I think I've seen more overreaching from townships that you can't believe. But this guy, I gotta interview him tomorrow, but he's telling me that the township shut down his operation. They shut me down, he says. They shut me down. I think I'm going to more than likely find out that they said, you got to shut down. And he just, okay, okay. And then he whines to me, they shut me down. Did you push back at all? Did you tell them to go to hell? Why don't you just keep operating and see what they do then? But I'll have to interview him and find out where he's at. If there was something having to do with a liquor license and all this other stuff. But I think part of the problem here in the States of people that are in farming, in homesteading, they're honest people. This is homesteading for me, for the type of person that I am, is, as they would say in Maine, a wicked good buzz. I get a wicked buzz out of it. A buzz, like if I drank a fifth of Jack Daniels, I'd get a pretty good buzz. But homesteading to me, I like it. It makes me feel good. I get a buzz out of it, right? I'm an honest person. I just am. I grew up in a household like that, and that's just how I roll, right? Or I try to be honest, you know? I do. I really do. And people like us have a tendency when we're going to do something like build a butcher shop, we want to go and make sure everything's going to be right. We're going to make sure, hey, what do I need to do this? And the problem is we're talking to freaking parasites that eat that up. Oh, he's asking me what he needs to do. Well, I'll show you. You've got to do this, this, and a little bit of this. And then I've got to come and check you every year. And you've got to give me money every year because I'm a parasite and I don't work for my money. That's why there's always problems, is because we're honest people and we go and ask. We think that's an honest thing, an admirable thing to do. It's actually not a good thing to do. It's a dumb thing to do. If you need to do something, you just do it. And then if anybody asks you any questions, well, why would they? For one thing, let's say you're going to butcher a pig. So you butcher a pig. You think you're going to have somebody coming up the drive. Were you butchering a pig out here? Are you butchering a pig? We've got surveillance photographs of you butchering a pig. Are you butchering a pig? And if that ever happened, I would say, go to hell. I don't have to answer your questions. I tell you what, one for one. You ask me a question, I ask you a question, but I go first. How about that? You answer mine, I'll answer yours. Actually, no, you're on my property. You got to answer two to my one. And you got to give me $25. That's how we're going to play the game. And I'm going to pat you down first, boy. You're on my property now. You don't come on my property and start asking questions. So, yeah, don't ask. I mean, it's improper anyway. The townships and the county, they're not there to grant permission, right? If something is illegal, like manufacturing methamphetamines, you wouldn't ask for permission to do it, would you? You would just do it, but you'd do it on the slide. But usually those are not smart people anyway. They're just kind of dumb people. So any of your farming processes, just think it through. Like, is there a reason why butchering a pig could somehow be illegal? No. How could that be illegal? I mean, you buy pork at the store, it had to be butchered someplace. Or the scenario with milk. Raw milk's illegal. It is? You mean that tanker going down the road to the Yoplait plant is full of illegal substance? Wow. I wonder why the cops don't pull them over. It's, stuff gets made up all the time. And this guy that was here Saturday night, we were discussing it. I would tell him things and he would look at me like, no, I've been hearing all my life another story. And now you say this, how could that be? And I tried to tell him, why would I tell you a lie? Right? Why would I tell you a lie? Well, how would that get me anywhere to lie to you about this? And he was really hesitant about killing a pig and selling it to pay for the feed for the other pig. And I said, what are you afraid of? What are you afraid of? And he's like, I'm not afraid. That sounds like you are. They're not going to throw you against the wall and shoot you on the first offense. Actually, there ain't going to be an offense because who's going to know? If you kill a pig and you sell a pork chop to your neighbor, how is anybody going to know? Not that it's illegal, but how is anybody going to know? When people come here and they buy puppies from me, nobody knows that happened. And you think, yeah, but nobody cares. Well, exactly. If they come here and they buy pork chops, nobody cares. But if you go up to the health department and say, do I need a permit to do this? Is this okay? There's not one wiener up there that's going to say, oh, yeah, that's fine. Because then if there is a problem, then I can go back and say, She told me it was okay. She said it was okay. That one right there, that fat one right there. She said it was okay. They're never going to say it's okay. They're going to say, oh, I've got to talk to my boss. I'll get back to you in a week. My boss is actually on vacation, so I can't tell you. I can't, having dealt with them, just do what you got to do. Just do what you got to do. Never ask for forgiveness. If you ever get jacked up about it, chances are they're just making it up. Chances are. So we'll see. But that's a good thing to talk about too. The legalities of it. Even using the word the legalities of butchering an animal on your farm indicates that there is maybe some illegalities. We shouldn't even say that. We shouldn't. We shouldn't. It'd be like um, the kids want to play hopscotch out on the front walk. Maybe we should discuss the legalities of that. Huh? The legalities? That doesn't make any sense. But somehow when it's food, and how did that ever happen? How did that ever happen? Well, if homesteading was as popular as, let's say, Facebook, you know, and people were sharing information about homesteading all the time, and there was a great deal of excitement about, oh, let's say if homesteading was as popular as the Kardashians, or let's say football, like NFL football, which I don't, I don't like it, and I never really did. I've watched a few Super Bowl games, but it was mostly for socializing purposes. I wouldn't go do it now. It's like a big, huge waste of time. But let's say homesteading was as popular as NFL is. Like, you have people that are in those stadiums, they know every stat there is to know. They know the good teams, the bad teams. They have jerseys that they wear that from their team. They know all the plays. They know all the players. They know all the coaches, all the good drama and everything. They watch ESPN, all that stuff. If homesteading was along those lines, a statement from the president like, well, we better get used to food shortages, it'd be like the president saying, well, there could likely be a shortage of oxygen in the air coming up here because of the Russians. That doesn't even make sense. Not that the guy does make sense, but it would make no sense because, well, Americans, they're all raising food. They're they all have little homesteads. They all have quarter acre homesteads. Like, you can't starve these people. It's sort of like disarming these people. How are you going to disarm these people? They have guns. You can't disarm them. If you say, well, you got to turn them in because we say so, and be like, yeah, yeah, sure. Especially after what we've been through last couple of, actually, you guys been through. I didn't go through it. You're really going to turn your firearms in. That would be a real smart move. I know there's some dummies out there, but that would be super dumb. Right? I don't think they could even get Canadians to do that. I think they tried that a few years, didn't they? They tried to get you guys to register all your guns, and I don't think that even happened. I don't. Pity I just moved back home in 2019. If I put my mind into it, anything is possible. Only thing holds me here is parents. Yeah, yeah. And that's important. That is important. Um, but I'd like to know what their animal restrictions are and all this other stuff, because they really don't have the people to police you. No society does. They trick you into it. It's very similar to what we do with our livestock. They don't know what's next door, so we kind of trick them into thinking there is no next door, and then we put up electric fences and keep them in. Wow, I'm going long tonight. Good show. Um, Bottom line, if you can butcher a pig, you have a self sufficiency skill that cannot be regulated. It can't be regulated. I mean, They are going to bring all these restrictions down on you. Why? Because they want to trim the population down. That's what they're doing. Come on. But if you have the skill to process, to butcher, and you become proficient at it, you're worth your weight in gold. It's like one of the oldest professions that there is. There's a couple others too that are old professions, but yeah. Okay, that's my thing tonight, and it works nicely into what we do. I feel very strongly about it, and that's why we teach it. And I would tell you that if you can butcher a hog, it's kind of a middle of the road animal. If you can butcher a hog, you can butcher a goat. If you can butcher a goat, you can butcher a deer. If you can butcher a deer, you can butcher a beef. You can. It's just bigger, and you need heavier. It's a heavier application. I don't even know if I've butchered beef without a front end loader before, and um, it can be done. A beef can be quartered up. Just you lay the animal on its back after it's bled out, and you use cordwood to prop it up, and then you skin it all the way down, so he's basically laying on his skin, right? That provides the surface that he's on, and then you gut him right there. You get all that stuff out, and then you can quarter right from there. You can use a saw, and you can go right down the backbone, and then the halves flop out, and then you cut them into quarters and get those quarters hung up, and that's what you do the first day. That's all you do. So it can be done. You don't need heavy equipment to do it. I mean, there's definitely techniques to doing it. You guys been doing it for years. I saw it done down in South America at a market, a street market, and when we went by, the the guy was walking a beef down to the market, and then the next time I was down there, he had killed it and laid it out and everything, and it was in the summertime. So, and then at the end of the day, everything was gone. Everything was gone. Okay. All right. So that's my rendition, I think, for tonight. I appreciate everybody coming by. There's not going to be a consulting show tomorrow night or a consulting meeting. We won't be doing that. The next time we meet will be Thursday night, and we're going to be interviewing a guy. He's a fellow farmer, and I think he's the one that had some problems that the interview that we did last week with Harold, it was the guy that he was talking about that had some problems with the township. So it should be kind of interesting. There are solutions to all of these little problems that townships like to dream up. The problem is with American people is you don't want to do it. You want somebody else to do it for you. And for the friends of ours that we've guided in the process of going back up against them, it's worked out every time. Every time. They are preying on you. They're preying on the citizenry to just be compliant. Compliance can be a good thing, but not always. Not always. Because what happens if you just comply with every wish that some weird supervisor, a Tony Barnes type character, that after a while he thinks that he's your master. He can tell you what color to paint your houses and how many windows to put in your house and how many blueberry plants that you should have and the rest you should pull out. Crazy stuff. If you don't call those guys out, which can be slightly painful for that type of person, and of course they have the whole machine at their disposal. then they just get worse and worse and worse. So anyway, we'll talk with this guy and see what happens, and then I will offer, um, my ideas about how to deal with overreach, and we can have a conversation on that. But for now, I'm going to wrap it up. We went an hour and a half tonight, an hour and 40 minutes, right on. Appreciate everybody coming by. Please do us a favor and get over there to the anyonecanfarmexperience.com and join us on Tribe Plus. It means a lot to me. Be advised, those of you that are on Tribe Plus, when you build a website like that, you build the site. And then when people go into the site, it's how they navigate it that is going to dictate how we're going to change the site. Okay? So there's a lot of work going on that Tribe Plus right now. It was a little bit cumbersome to move around in there, and it's being fixed, but it is being worked on. So please have a little patience with us. Keep in mind that the Anyone Can Farm experience someday is going to be huge. It is going to be huge. So to get in on the ground level like this is an honor for you. I kill me sometimes. All right, got to go. See you guys. Remember, anyone can farm.